don't have to remember which is which.
All right, we'll call the special meeting of the Byron Independent School District number 531 to order on September 23rd, 2024. Attendance, please.
David, here. Lisa,
Here.
Matt,
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Absent is Dwayne Quam, Heather Holmes, and Carrie Delaney.
Are there any discussions or questions on the agenda items? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the agenda items.
I make a motion to approve the agenda items.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved. We'll move on to new business, which item A, action on the preliminary levy.
Well, good evening. You're here tonight to hear about the preliminary levy. By law, the board has to have a preliminary levy certified to the county by September 30th. And then a final levy will be certified to the county auditors by December 30th. The only changes that can be made from this levy from today until then is if you were to pass any kind of vote in November. So an operating referendum or a tech levy, any kind of, that kind of thing, that would be the only thing that would change this from now until December. The purpose of this is to provide an, provide an overview of the proposed preliminary property tax levy for payable 25 and any changes that were made. The preliminary certification is a component of the overall levy process. There are adjustments still being made from the Department of Ed. So tonight when we talk about that, we're going to ask you to certify the maximum so that any of those adjustments made to prior years can still happen in this levy. And then you'll have one more chance to act on this property tax levy in December. So any changes to the levy, they're really driven by the state level. There are some determined by district voters, but mainly any formulas changed by state formula, so the legislature would have to do that. This is quite a bit different than any county or city levy, school district levies. You really don't have many choices to make as a school board. It's mainly determined by the state what you can and can't levy. And if you decide to under levy something, if there was an aid component to that, so a levy in aids, then you would lose the aid component as well. So most of the time we ask you to certify the maximum so that you're realizing the maximum revenue that the school district can receive. So changes in sales ratio impacting your adjusted net tax capacity. Sales ratio for this district are really sitting about 90% of actual sales. So if your house was selling at $100,000, the county is only really taxing you about $90,000 of it. So you're about 10% short of an actual the realization in your in your district. And that's on our levy report. You can see that how the county is a little bit behind in this district in those how they spread the taxes.
Question for you, is
Yes.
that a separation from any other part of the state, or is that unique to Byron,
It's unique to the county.
to the county?
And so other counties may be a little bit closer in actual sales to tax. But this county, you're a little short, you're almost 10%.
Okay.
So that does, it just is how it's spread across all of those properties, and that's just a little low, and so it's, you would see it a little bit different if they were closer. Yes.
Julie, so if the county then realizes 100% tax value, would that go up then, the levy amount?
No,
Okay.
what we set for levy is set,
Okay.
it's just how it would get spread across the properties in the district.
Okay.
So if, theoretically then, if you had a household that was for some reason by the county assessed at 85% and somebody else at 90%, there might be a slight discrepancy.
Right.
But you'd never really capture that until a house is sold to capture the actual real
Right.
market value.
Correct. That's correct. And then the only thing that the district voters, the only thing that voters can really vote on, even city, county, is school district referendums. So they have an opportunity, it's a little unfair in my opinion, but they have an opportunity to say no to anything that you have a need. They can't do that same thing for cities or counties. They can set those levies and the voters don't really have a choice besides voting out someone. But once that levy is set, they don't really have a choice. We're here in schools, they do have a choice. So they can approve a bond referendum or an excess levy referendum, which this district is asking for in November, or capital projects levy, also is known as a technology levy. Some other factors that can affect your levy certification is inflationary pressure on real estate, abatements, property improvements not previously taxed, or new homes being built, changes in individual assessed market value. So if you see some sort of property or area properties, might see them increasing in value for some reason, and then that will change how the taxes are assessed throughout your district. The levy process is a little bit different here as well in schools. We really are right now working in 3 years, 3 school years. We're working on last year and audit, those kinds of things. We're in our current year working on the things we need to do, and you're certifying this levy is for next school year. So we're certifying it now in 24. Taxes are collected next year in May and in October. And then we actually receive that money as part of our revenue next school year, so FY '26. So even the money that comes in May is deferred into next school year. I just want to talk a little bit about budget process. We're working on a revised budget now for this year, and we'll be working on a budget for next year as well. But as we work through that, you can see July through October is our year-end audit process. We're working on the preliminary levy here in September. Our audit report is due to the board in November, December, and then you'll see that December is our truth and taxation hearing. We'll set that in a little bit here, and we'll do some mid-year adjustments probably in January, and then we'll do projections for next year. We'll have those mainly done here by the end of this in December, and then June you have to approve another preliminary budget. That June preliminary budget is what this levy will be utilized for. So now you're doing it now, but you're really doing it for next June. This is the detailed levy. This is where it gets really boring. So if it hasn't already been boring for you, this is where it does get boring. You can see your district doesn't have an operating referendum, so there is nothing in that line. There's something called equity, and equity is a piece that, because the state is required to offer an equal education to everyone, it's not always equal, especially when you don't have a referendum, and so they give you a little extra money. You sit somewhere between 5% and 95% of other rural school districts. So there's a metro component and there's a rural component. You're in the rural area. And so they judge, they assess you where you're at in that 5 to 95% range, and then you get money based on where you land. And you are definitely in the lower part, you're getting a little bit more money. If you were to pass an operating referendum, you would get a little less money in equity. Not a lot, but you would get a little less. Transition is just old money that you used to get it's almost 20 years old. And because it's still in law, it's still in the books, you just keep getting that. It's kind of adjustments from several different areas of old laws. Local optional, that's $724 per pupil unit that every school district in the state has an opportunity to levy for. And so you can see the majority of that levy, 1.9 million, almost $2 million is in those 3 areas right there. The rest of these are what I would consider categorical funding, where part of this is levy and part of it is aid. And so you can see operating capital, you're levying 163. Last year it's 178 this year. Sorry, forgot to skip over to 25 here. So you can see we're a little over 2 million above that in the upper part. But the operating capital, 178, that's not all the district receives. They receive an aid component, so you're a little closer to $300,000 in operating capital. Same with achievement and integration, that's just partial of the revenue that you receive, partial is aid, and that's partial is levy. And that's when I said earlier, if you were to under levy in one of these and say, well, we don't want to levy for everything in achievement and integration, you would also lose that aid component. Reemployment insurance is very low here. So you're seeing a very small amount there. Safe Schools levy, this is what we receive for your school resource officer or cameras in the school for school safety. Safe Schools Intermediate, you don't have that, you're for an intermediate school. Career and Technical, that's $113,000, that also has an aid component. Career and Technical is for those classes that you offer, like business ed,
Our STEM, our ag,
STEM,
agriculture
ag,
classes, STEM,
facts.
and the teachers are trained or get trained in CTE. And so anything that their salaries as well as like if they're doing welding, need welding masks, we can put that into the CTE part of it as well. So that's the career and technical part.
It does help your school district, if they're certified in that, you do get some extra revenue because they are certified. Our OPEB is other post-employment benefits, so that is money that retirees receive, that's usually now, those are all grandfathered out, and so it's only those people who are still in that system that receive those benefits. So most of those are out of any contract any longer. Long-term facility maintenance, again, that's a levy and an aid component that helps the district maintain buildings and grounds. And then we have a building land lease for any leases that the district has. And that is only a levy component there. And so that's another $1 million. So you're seeing that the district in the total general is right around $3.1 million in those areas. There are prior year adjustments of about $40,000. Then we also levy for community ed and debt service. And community ed is all based on the number of your census data for kids in 0 to 5, and then there's some for adult ed as well. And so you can see those areas, it's probably the smallest portion of your total levy. So we levy for basic community ed, which are your adult ed classes and those types of things, early childhood family ed, home visiting, adults with disabilities. We do have a component of school age care, which continues to increase. This is the part that we levy for children who are attending our school age care that have special ed needs. And so we can utilize this levy to help hire additional staff to care for those children. Because the total population in the state of Minnesota, they're seeing a large increase for pre-K through from birth to pre-K, a larger percentage of special ed students. You'll see that number continuing to grow. And then we have some small prior year adjustments. So that's about $160,000 there. And then debt service. And this is all voter approved expenditures to pay any new bonds or any bond payments that we have, kind of like your mortgage payments. They go up a little bit every year usually. You can see they're going up a couple $100,000 here for next year. And this is just the payment schedule. You really don't have a choice on what this is. It's just the payment schedule that was set up when those bonds were sold.
Quick question on that. So
Yes.
being that the bond is at a fixed rate, why would those be going up?
It is at a fixed interest rate, but they do adjust those principal payments throughout. And so those principal payments go up throughout the
But
Like that.
but over the same time, your interest payments are
going down. But you'll often see a delayed start
Okay,
to your principal payments.
yeah, because we've got all of our bonds wrapped right
Right,
now.
yep, and that's why you're seeing delayed start to that.
Okay, all right, I was just curious on that, because like I say, with a fixed amount there, I understand. So this would just be on the principal amount when you're talking about debt service, not
No, it's principal and interest.
principal and interest.
And by law, the school district has to levy 5% of the total principal and interest, just in case there were unpaid property
Okay,
taxes.
okay, right.
And what happens is, you can see this debt excess line. Once the fund balance in the debt service gets to be over that 5%, the state will see what it is, and then they'll under levy there for you, because, so that you don't grow that account too much. So if you have people that are paying their taxes, it automatically comes back out.
Okay.
So it doesn't just grow to be such a huge number. Any questions about any of that? So here's your summary of all of those three areas: your general education, your community service, and your debt service. The total overall is a 5.36% increase. And again, we recommend that you adopt the maximum, so those adjustments can be made in these next couple of days. It shouldn't really change your levy very much, if at all, and then we'll come back in December for the final levy. Any questions about any of this? I kind of went through it pretty quickly, but
So one of the options that we would have going forward, if we can successfully pass the operating levy this fall, is that if we as a board or the future board determines that our situation isn't as bad as we thought it was, next year we can always back down this locally approved amount
yes,
to the tune of $724 if we want to.
Right.
And have the capacity to,
yes.
so that we could reduce the net tax burden to the taxpayers and do that on an annualized basis.
Yes. You can even do that with your operating levy.
Yep.
Either one.
Yep.
Any other discussion, questions? I know you kind of looking at. I studied it earlier and you touched on a few things that answered some questions that I had, so I don't have any because you went through it, so.
I'm available to, if you have questions later, I'd certainly be happy to answer them.
One thing that I did notice, so the safe schools going back a couple was 89,000, but now that we don't pay the SRO, are the safe schools, does that money go somewhere else?
There's a list of things that it can be used for, so like cameras, it can be used for counselors, it can be used for a variety.
And so we get that from the state,
So,
right?
right, so
No, you get it
remember,
from a levy.
so remember, we decided that, at the time that the SRO, at this point, when we made those reductions in the spring, that we wouldn't have the SRO, but we would be able to keep paying onto a counselor. We use that money for a counselor. We also
Okay.
use it for, something that's bigger now, or getting more increase, is the cybersecurity. And we're paying for cybersecurity as well as cameras and upgrading cameras. And, so yeah, we get 89,000, but we were paying $76,000 for an SRO, so,
Okay.
that was taken up pretty quickly, and so we decided to try to hang on to a counselor and use that, and kind of go from there, so.
And your levy is really based on, again, student population. So as your student population, you've enjoyed, I'm gonna say enjoyed, and pretty steady increases for the several years, and now you're kind of flattening out. And those increases really did help your district maintain a really nice fund balance, because every new student brought in, $12,000. Well, now you're not getting as many new students, if at all, and so you're really only seeing that 2% and 3% from the state. And if you, just to remember too, that when you're getting that 2 or 3% from the state, that's only on your basic revenue, which is about 60% of your total general fund revenue. So if you're a $30 million organization, you're really only seeing 2 or 3% on 18 million of it,
So the
So-
2 is really closer to 1.2.
right? People have a tendency to think, well, the state gave you 2%, you have a budget of 30 million, you're getting $640,000. No, you're not. You're getting, somewhere around 300 and some thousand. So you just have to remember that it's not on the full amount of money that you're receiving.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Excuse me. So what we would look at now would be taking action on the amount of the levy that we would seek, and the recommendation to us is that the board would look for the maximum levy to allow us to encapsulate all of the possible dollars. Big word.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the maximum, local operating levy as we have in the past.
Just the levy, right? Or is it local operating? No, just the levy.
Just
Just the
It's
levy.
the same.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second or any further discussion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the levy, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to item B, the action to set the truth and taxation date for December 16th.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to set the truth and taxation meeting for December 16th, 2024.
Second.
And just wanted to let you know, that is the date of our regular school board meeting, and we do the truth and taxation right at the very beginning of that meeting. So then people come and listen and ask questions and so forth like that. And we have a meeting afterwards, so it's not a special meeting, it's already on our calendar as a regular meeting.
Motion and a second. All in favor of setting the truth and taxation date for December 16th, say aye. All opposed? That motion is carried and set.
So I just have one question though, just for clarification for people that are gonna be watching. This local levy that we just passed tonight at the maximum is the same thing that we have done historically since I've been on the board, is passing the maximum amount of the local authority.
Pretty much all districts do that.
Yes.
Pretty much all districts do that. So this is nothing new for anybody in the community. It's the same it's always been. The only thing that would be different would be if we do something in November with the operating levy, that would be above and beyond what we've ever done in the past. And I just want everybody in the community to understand that this is nothing new. This has been standard operating procedure since pretty much the beginning of time. So,
Thank you for that. All right, any other questions or discussion, input? Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
I
All opposed? We are adjourned. Yes.
I doubled my time.
So it's.
Thank you.